India will identify, track and punish every terrorist.
In April 2025, a horrific attack shattered the peace in Kashmir. What followed wasn't just retaliation, it was a geopolitical earthquake. India launched Operation Sindoor, Pakistan threatened retribution, and the world is watching a potential war unfold. What's really happening, and where does this end? On April 22, 2025, gunmen opened fire on a group of domestic and foreign tourists in Pahalgam, a town known for its peaceful scenery and spiritual heritage. The serene atmosphere of this picturesque town was shattered in an instant as the sound of gunfire echoed through the valleys. Families who had come to seek solace and adventure found themselves in the midst of chaos and terror. The attack was sudden and brutal, leaving no time for escape or defense. 26 civilians were killed. Among the victims were children, elderly, and tourists from various parts of the world. The local emergency services were overwhelmed as they rushed to provide aid to the injured and secure the area. The once peaceful streets of Pahalgam were now scenes of horror and grief, with families torn apart and lives forever changed. The images of blood-stained streets and panicked survivors stunned the world. News channels broadcasted the harrowing footage, bringing global attention to the tragedy. Social media was flooded with messages of solidarity and outrage, as people from all corners of the globe condemned the senseless violence. The attack not only shook the local community, but also resonated deeply with people worldwide, highlighting the fragility of peace in conflict-prone regions. India's intelligence quickly traced the attack to the Lashkar-e-Taiba network, allegedly operating with safe havens in Pakistan-administered territory. The investigation revealed a complex web of planning and coordination, suggesting that the attackers had received significant support and training. This revelation intensified the already strained relations between India and Pakistan, with both nations trading accusations and denials. While Pakistan denied involvement, India's government declared it a pre-planned act of terror with cross-border implications. The Indian government vowed to take decisive action, promising to bring the perpetrators to justice and prevent future attacks. Diplomatic tensions escalated, with calls for international intervention and support. The Pahalgam attack became a grim reminder of the ongoing conflict in the region and the urgent need for a lasting resolution. Within hours, diplomacy unraveled. India expelled several Pakistanis, citing national security risks. Bilateral talks were frozen. Then came a bold move. India announced the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, a water-sharing agreement that has survived wars, coups and crises since 1960. New Delhi also blocked Pakistani flights from entering its airspace and issued travel bans on select Pakistani officials. Meanwhile, Pakistan responded with diplomatic protests, public outrage, and calls for international intervention. On May 6, India initiated Operation Sindoor, a coordinated military response targeting 9 locations in Pakistan. This operation was meticulously planned and executed with precision, involving a fleet of Indian Air Force jets that took off under the cover of darkness. The mission aimed to dismantle what India described as terror infrastructure that posed an imminent threat to its national security. The operation was not just a show of might, but also a strategic move to send a clear message to its adversaries, and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The targets? Alleged terror camps and training facilities that India claims were being used to orchestrate attacks on its soil. The choice of these specific locations was based on intelligence reports and satellite imagery that indicated a high level of militant activity. The operation was designed to be swift and effective, minimizing the window for any counteraction. And weapon storage sites. India claims the operation was precise and necessary, aimed only at militant infrastructure. The name Sindoor, symbolizing both sacredness and blood, reflects India's message. This is a righteous response, but not without cost. Pakistan, however, condemned the strikes as violations of its sovereignty. The Pakistani government issued a strong statement, accusing India of aggression and warning of potential retaliation. This has escalated tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors, raising concerns about the possibility of further military confrontations, and reported significant civilian casualties, particularly in the Neelam Valley and Bagh districts. Eyewitnesses described scenes of chaos and destruction with homes reduced to rubble and families torn apart. Emergency services were quickly overwhelmed, struggling to provide aid to the injured and displaced. The international community has called for restraint and dialogue, urging both nations to de-escalate the situation and seek a peaceful resolution. However, the path to peace remains fraught with challenges, as both sides stand firm in their positions. Pakistan's Prime Minister Amir Qureshi took to national television, denouncing the strikes as, well, an act of war. In a stern and impassioned speech, he condemned the aggression and called for unity among the Pakistani people. He emphasized that the sovereignty of Pakistan was under threat, and that the nation must stand together in the face of such provocations. His words were aimed not just at the domestic audience, but also at the international community, seeking to garner support and sympathy for Pakistan's position. He placed the Pakistani military on high alert and promised proportional retaliation at a time of our choosing. The military was seen mobilizing across various strategic locations, with soldiers preparing for potential conflict. The streets of major cities were filled with a sense of urgency and tension as the government called for readiness and vigilance. The Prime Minister's declaration was a clear signal that Pakistan was not going to back down and was prepared to defend its territory and honor. Skirmishes along the line of control increased dramatically. The once sporadic exchanges of fire turned into more frequent and intense confrontations. Both sides accused each other of initiating the hostilities, and the situation quickly escalated. The line of control, which had always been a volatile region, now became the epicenter of heightened military activity. Reports of casualties began to emerge, adding to the growing tension and uncertainty. Heavy artillery exchanges were reported near Rajouri, Kupwara, and Poonch. The sounds of explosions and gunfire echoed through the valleys, disrupting the lives of those living in the border areas. The local populations were caught in the crossfire, with many seeking refuge in safer locations. The intensity of the artillery fire indicated that both sides were willing to escalate the conflict, raising fears of a full-scale war. Reports of civilian displacement and power outages are growing on both sides of the border, raising fears that this might not stay a limited conflict. Families were seen evacuating their homes, carrying whatever belongings they could manage. The power outages added to the chaos, making communication and coordination even more difficult. Humanitarian organizations began to express concern over the potential for a large-scale humanitarian crisis, as the conflict showed no signs of abating. The international community watched with bated breath, hoping for a de-escalation, but preparing for the worst. Both India and Pakistan possess nuclear weapons. The very existence of these arsenals has acted as a deterrent in past confrontations, like Kargil in 1999 and Balakot in 2019. But now, things are different. Trust is eroded, communication lines are down. The world fears a miscalculation. One wrong signal, one rogue incident could set off a chain reaction far deadlier than anything we've seen in decades. The United States, Russia, and China have all issued cautious statements urging de-escalation. The United Nations Security Council met in an emergency session, though it stopped short of issuing a joint resolution. Meanwhile, countries like France, Turkey, and the UAE have offered to mediate. The question is, will either side listen, or are we headed toward a new normal of instability? The Kashmir issue is not just about territory, it's about identity, memory, and politics. And in this new chapter, the stakes have grown dangerously high. Will Pakistan retaliate militarily? Will India escalate further? Or will behind-the-scenes diplomacy pull both nations back from the brink? Conflict is easy. Peace takes courage. Operation Sindoor has changed the game. But the next move could define the future of South Asia for generations. If this story matters to you, comment your thoughts and let us know what Pakistan's next response will be and what India will do. And don't forget to subscribe for more global deep dives that go beyond the headlines.